Blending families isn't just about shared holidays or chore charts or anything like that, but it's about navigating those invisible loyalty binds and redefining roles as well as rebuilding trust, often while grieving the family you thought you'd have. Join me today as we explore how to lower expectations, raise connection, and create a home where everyone belongs. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's rock and talk. Welcome back, my friends, to Fulfillment Therapy. I'm your host, Kendra Nielsen, and today we're talking about a complex challenge that so many families are facing, more than I expected in my practice. And that is blending households and creating harmony when these two separate family units come together. So, whether you're anticipating this transition or you're already in the thick of it, today we're going to explore strategies to navigate those complex and turbulent waters of step parenting, especially when there are new sibling relationships and you're learning how to create a unified family identity. I want to share a quick story with you. So, this is about, I'm going to call her Jessica and maybe Tom. So, Jessica married Tom and she really envisioned this harmonious, happy, peaceful family life where everyone plays games together and they share these new holiday traditions. But within just a month, her 10-year-old stepdaughter refused to acknowledge her presence, and Tom's ex-wife scrutinized everything. And I see this with a lot of my clients. Like the exes become very problematic in the peace in their home. Jessica often wondered, have I made a terrible mistake? Can we do this? And with conversation after conversation like this, I'm like, I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast yet. And likely many of you listeners are facing these same dilemmas, these same challenges, and you're uncertain how to thrive in this environment when it feels so turbulent and challenging. So let's discuss for a minute the hidden challenges of blending families. Blending families requires families to redefine their roles. For example, is it a step parent or a bonus parent, an insider or an outsider, that type of thing. One of my clients talks about how, as a stepdad, he feels like an intruder when his spouse's children ignore his suggestions but immediately comply with their biological mom. Dr. Kelley said this: step families aren't broken, they're just wired differently. It's like assembling IKEA furniture without the instructions. I, for one, am not great at assembling things. It drives me crazy, and that is such an apt description of what it's like. Like, how are we going to put this together? It doesn't make sense. I'm so confused and just feeling really alone and frustrated. And on top of that, you have this added dimension of complexity when it comes to those loyalty binds. It makes sense that your kids often feel torn between that biological parent and the step parent, and they are afraid that if they show affection to one, that it's betraying the other one, especially if there is a more complicated divorce and there's heightened feelings. But even if not, maybe you have a very sensitive child and that child is very protective, very loyal, and doesn't want to betray the other one, even if that parent didn't ask them to. Another challenge is when you merge two of those family rule books. I'm putting my fingers in quotes if you are not watching the YouTube video. But that's when you're trying to figure out how to put two things together in a way that makes sense without a lot of contention. So that can be screen time policies, chore expectations, holiday traditions, or things like homework or curfew. Any of those things can be so much more complicated when you're merging families. Other clients of mine talked about how they had a very strict academic schedule. And as they merged families, the other family was more relaxed in their approach. And it created these major homework battles that they were not prepared for, especially when they're so used to their way of doing things in their own family culture before that dynamic shifted. So, what can we do when we have some of these issues and it just feels so complicated, so overwhelming? What are some simple things that can be done to improve that dynamic? One of the first things you can do is slow down and lower expectations. You don't hear this from me too much, but when you are blending families, higher expectations usually does not improve that dynamic when you are learning how to blend and create a peaceful environment for each person to want to be there instead of increasing that likelihood that there is going to be this battle between where the kids go, where they're spending their time, if they're happy, if they're not, all of these heightened fears and emotions. Did you know that blending families can take 5 to 7 years on average? That's probably not very comforting to you, but that's what we're finding in research. So focus on that incremental progress and not that instant unity because it's just not realistic. I want to give you a quick example of what some other clients of mine did. They started something called Neutral Territory Tuesdays, where they were able to do something that they hadn't done in their own family culture. So they explored new restaurants together on that day or created a shared experience without that pressure of the home dynamics and figuring out which culture to adhere to. Another very simple thing you can do is communicate with we language. So I'm going to give you an example here. You could say something like, "We're all adjusting to this new situation. How can we work together and make mornings less stressful for you?" Instead of saying something like, "Your kids need to be more organized," and just really thinking your way is the best way and the only realistic way. Don Deal said this: "In blended families, love grows sideways before it grows deep. Start with respect, not affection." So, again, sometimes our expectations are so high that they're just going to love us, they're going to be very affectionate. Maybe don't worry about that in the beginning, but instead just try to be authentic and real and allow for that slower pace because that's what it takes sometimes. And recognize that grief is very complicated for that child and really for every player. All right, here is another tip, a simple thing that you can do to improve this dynamic. You can create new traditions. Here's another example. I have another couple that I work with from different backgrounds. Like one is from Mexico, one is American. They created a tradition that honored both of their heritages. And every Friday, they alternated cooking dishes from each family's cultural background. So Mexican food versus American food. And they did back and forth simply to start something new together as a family. So avoid massively overhauling those existing routines because kids do need that stability when there's so much change in their life. And be patient with the process. Check in with them and communicate with them because this is hard on everybody. Last but not least, you can address conflict with boundaries. I'm really big on boundaries. I love to talk about them. I love to help people set them because this is how you can feel safe and that everyone can feel like it's a win if you can do it right. There are certain people that really push those. But generally, if you approach that in the right way, it can be very freeing for everyone involved. I want to give you a quick example here. I have another client that really struggled with boundaries, and she was frustrated by her partner's lenient parenting style. But when they talked together, they compromised and worked out an agreement where they decided that for that first year, the biological parents would be the ones that would take the lead on the discipline. And then they'd gradually involve the step parents in that decision making and acclimate the kids to them being partners in that and getting used to that new dynamic instead of rushing it so quickly. Sue Marriott said this: "Step parenting is like gardening. You till the soil before planting seeds. Rushing ruins the harvest. So that's just like our last example. Yes, ideally, you want that step parent to get right in there and be helping with discipline and all of these things, acting as that full partner. And yet, rushing things can really ruin the harvest and ruin the experience for the kids. So be willing to take it a little slower and gradually move forward with those changes. So it's a safer home environment for everyone as they acclimate. All right, let's just recap a few of these things that we talked about. Simple, tiny steps that you can take to have greater success when you are blending your family. Blending families is a marathon and not a sprint, so celebrate those tiny wins along the way and pace yourself. The second thing is prioritize communication so that you can have improved teamwork instead of blaming each other. So that we language versus that you language that is so full of blame. The third thing is honor those past traditions while building new ones. So honor both family cultures and then create new things so that neither side feels that their family culture didn't matter or it's not important. And last but not least, let those bio parents take the lead in discipline early on or whatever else it might be and slowly acclimate them to those changes and involve them more and more and communicate that along the way. So for this week, try just one small act of connection. Maybe ask a stepchild about their favorite hobby or prepare a meal together. And remember that it's simply about that small incremental growth. If you are struggling with any of these challenges and you want to share your story or reach out for any guidance or help, reach out to us on Instagram at Fulfillment Therapy. In the show notes, you can find us in all the other places. And don't forget to check out our courses to take your mental health and wellness and your life fulfillment to the next level in very simple ways, with online courses that are self-led, that can break it down into small incremental steps that will change your life. If you're ready for that next step, go check it out on fulfillmenttherapy.org. And as a reminder, we have new blog and podcast episodes every Monday and Thursdays, so you can check those out, and we will see you back here in just a few days. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you. No matter what your house or your hair looks like, I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.